He ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. Liam Coen is staying in Tampa with the Bucs. What up, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter/X. Big news. Liam Coen turns down. He's not going to Jacksonville. He's staying here, getting a pay bump with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He'll be one of the highest paid coordinators in all of football. That is what we're starting the show with today. What did you expect? Something else? Of course not. I want to hear from you. Questions, comments, concerns. Let me know how you're feeling about this big news, the biggest news in the Tampa Bay area. Nobody else is live right now talking about Liam Coen and the Bucs, except us right here on the Recher podcast. Follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Let's say you forget at noon that we're on. Boom. That notifications bell, they're going to hit you up. They're going to let you know, hey, don't forget the Recher podcast. And we are here for you, talking about the biggest news of the day. Liam Coen staying in Tampa Bay. We're going to keep this conversation going pretty much the entire first hour on the podcast. Rob Maaddi's going to join us, AP senior NFL writer. What is his thoughts on the entire situation? Also, at 1 o'clock, we'll have Mark Topkin joining us from the Tampa Bay Times. It looks like Taylor Walls is staying in Tampa Bay. Also, the the Baseball Hall of Fame. We saw last night 3 Hall of Famers inducted into the new class. I had 3 of the 4. Not bad. CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, and Billy Wagner will be part of that class going into Cooperstown this summer. And then at 1:30 today, we'll talk to our guy Eric Erlinson, lightninginsider.com. Not pretty last night for the Bolts as they blow a lead to the Montreal Canadiens, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on, because right now we're starting the show. Liam Coen staying here in Tampa with the Buccaneers. How are you guys feeling? David Velasquez, Jason hit Liam with the bag. Never a doubt. Liam returning from our guys Buccaneers podcast. Our guy Nick in Sarasota. If we had a New York Post style paper here, tomorrow's back page headline would be head coach in waiting. Well, we do know, and this was reported by our guy Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times, there's no literature going Liam Coen's way saying that he's a coach in waiting, like we saw with Gerard Mayo, with Bill Belichick up there in New England. Nothing like that. He realizes the stability, and this is why, ever since this whole situation arose, I was not sold. You know it. If you've been listening, if you've been watching here on the Recher podcast, I was not sold that Liam Coen was going to leave for Jacksonville. Now, if it was somewhere else, then hey, it's somewhere else. You look at the opportunity, you chip your hat, you go, hey, man, there's only 1 of 32. Good luck. But that job is not so enticing right now in Jacksonville. Ben Johnson said no. Liam Coen says no. They'd rather go somewhere else. Ben Johnson, now the head coach with the Bears. Liam Coen saying, I'd rather stay as the OC with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And let me just fill you guys in with this kind of whole thing, right? This has just as much to do with the dumpster fire in Jacksonville as it is here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just think about it. If this was a little bit more of a cushier job there in Jacksonville, if there was some stability, then I think he would have went there. I mean, you already have the quarterback. You have Trevor Lawrence. There's no way that a offensive mastermind like Liam Coen would look at a guy like Trevor Lawrence and go, nah, I don't think I can work with a guy like that. Hell yeah, he could have. But Trent Baalke as the GM, Shad Khan as the ownership, it's scaring people away. It is scaring people away. And then you look at it and you go, the grass isn't greener on the other side. I got a really good thing here in Tampa. I got a structure around me that puts me in a position to succeed. Why the hell would I leave right now? I know in terms of what your job title is, that would be a step up. But as far as your surrounding environment and the success and the ability to succeed, you have a much better chance of doing that next year with the Buccaneers than you do with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think that's any type of discernment from anybody that knows football out there. It's a beautiful thing that Liam Coen is staying here. The continuity is key. That means Todd Bowles isn't going anywhere. He knows what he's getting from the Glazers to Jason Light to the entire crew. It looks like Spytek and Greenberg are staying too, because the Jets went in a different direction for the GM. So did the Tennessee Titans. So it looks like the gang is all coming back. Spytek, Greenberg, Light, Bowles, Coen. We know we have Baker. We know you have Bucky Irving. You know you have 4/5 the offensive line. If you're Liam Coen, and again, I've been saying this since the beginning, Liam Coen is going to look at this the same way that Ben Johnson did last year. I'm a hot commodity. I'm an OC. I'm looking around. There are other opportunities out there, but is that the one? Is that the one where I'm going to change everything that I know? Am I going to take a risk on that place? Because we've seen it before. We've seen it before where guys take a leap of faith. They go to a job that may not be the greatest environment, the greatest situation, and then they poop the bed. And in 2 years, they're back on the streets. Smart move by Liam Coen. Again, this has just as much to do with how great everything is here in the Tampa Bay area as bad as it is there in Jacksonville, because the quarterback is there. And I know our guy, Trevor Sickham, I'm trying to get him on the program for tomorrow, Tampa Bay Trey on Twitter/X. He mentioned this about they have Trevor Lawrence, but it's not a Trevor Lawrence issue. You always think as a coach, put me in the right spot. Put me over there. I'll change things, whether it's with the quarterback or the organization as a whole. For Liam Coen, he looked at that situation and goes, regardless of the picturesque, the statuesque Trevor Lawrence that looks like if you could create one in a lab, that's the kind of quarterback you'd probably want. Number 1 overall pick, a guy that was, you want to talk about a guy coming out of college that was ranked as high as the Andrew Lucks and the Peyton Mannings of the world. He was a can't-miss prospect. The fact that Liam Coen looked at that situation with that quarterback and that type of potential in him and said, nah, I'm good. I'm staying with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, there's a lot that goes into it. And it's not just the Bucs. It helps, but it just, you look at the situations between the two teams. And again, I go back to my argument for why we shouldn't take Todd Bowles for granted. He is part of that safety net. He's part of that calming influence with Jason Light, with the rest of the players, rest of the people in the front office, the players in the offense that Liam Coen knows he's coming back to. It's a beautiful thing. And I feel very happy for our fans here in the Tampa Bay area and abroad, because there's so many times in sports you're let down and guys leave and guys get traded or they sign somewhere else. Today, Bucs Nation, you can revel in this. You can be happy that a guy chose Tampa Bay. Shout out to Anthony and Christopher. Guys, hit that like button if you can. I want to see that like amount go up today. Our guy Dolan, what up, Jay? Hell yeah, Liam Coen staying. We do get to keep nice things. Yeah, I figured that Jacksonville gig was going to be super tough, and that there was unfinished business here. Yeah, and I'm sure Ben Johnson felt that same way last year, staying with Detroit, not taking a head coaching job the last cycle. Gave it another run this year. I thought he did another great job with Jared Goff, and then he goes to the Chicago Bears. Next step in his development, next step in his career. Good for him. I don't think that it was just because it was tough in Jacksonville, right? People understand that there's difficult situations. But when you look at a guy like Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning coach, when he had Trevor Lawrence, and you could just tell he was so just miffed every single week at the podium. There's something there. And the fact that Trent Baalke, the GM, is still in Jacksonville, I mean, it's not an appealing job. We're going down the same road for the Jacksonville Jaguars that we went through last year with the Carolina Panthers. This guy doesn't want it. This guy doesn't want it. This guy doesn't want it. So what's going to end up happening is Jacksonville is going to take a guy that was certainly not their first choice. Maybe they go down the list a little bit more. I know Patrick Graham is one of their options. I know Robert Saleh was one of their options. And if you saw on Twitter, I did my part. I said that Robert Saleh would be a home run hire. And I was arguing with every single Jaguars fan that took the bait. You all did it. I don't like to troll, and I don't troll very often. But when I do, I try to do my part. I did everything I could to kind of throw them off the scent with Liam Coen. I don't think it worked, but hey, it was some fun as well. Bart Hill, what's going on, buddy? I believe the chance on Chris Godwin staying just got greater. David, I don't think Chris Godwin's going anywhere, brother. I don't. Dead cap over $18 million. He's coming off of his second season-ending injury. It just makes too much sense for him to stay here. Don't go nowhere. Stay here. You know, if you are in the building, you're going to be working with one of your best friends, Mike Evans. You got other receivers in there like Jalen McMillan that can take some of the heat off of you. You know, you got Bucky Irving, and most important, you have two guys and Baker Mayfield that can get you the football, and Liam Coen, who runs an offense that puts you in a position where you, at this point, at 5 games through last season, were arguably the best receiver in all of football. It wasn't like Chris Godwin is thinking right now, man, I'm going back to a Dave Canales-led offense. I'm going back to a Liam Coen-led offense. And I was balling. Over 50 catches, over 500 yards, over 5 touchdowns when he lost the rest of the season due to injury. He's got to be licking his chops trying to get back here. David Terry, Liam needs a wheelbarrow for his payday. Hey, good for him. I'm happy for the guy. He's earned it. Mike Frimter, my guy. Mikey, what's up, pal? Continuity is king to me. Baker and the offense need that. Now we can focus on the defense and some upgrades. This whole off season is about improving the defense. Now, you do have to fill the guard spot. Maybe they bring a Ben Bredesen back if it's affordable. Keep an eye on Elijah Klein. Draft pick from last year, UTEP, a kid that played a lot of different spots in preseason. I know that they really liked him. Keep an eye on Elijah Klein. I think that could be, when you look internally for a solution at that spot, I think that could be a guy. Matthew P., let's effing go, Lord Liam. Ryan B., always supporting as well. Liam didn't go. Yeah, he let him know. He didn't even go, Chris. He said, no, I'm staying here. Lady Evil, what a day, Jay. January 22nd should be a Tampa Bay holiday from now. That changes all the dynamics for the offseason. What a relief. I'm going home from work and opening a cold one. Good for you. And be safe out there because it is freaking cold outside. I actually just walked around outside before the show. I just wanted to get the juices flowing. It's cold out there, man. I got the heat on in the house, and I very rarely put the heat on here. Baker gets his first repeat OC ever in the NFL. Yeah, in year 8. How great is that? Pay Godwin, I'm with you. Nick says, if you're a Man U fan, how do you feel today with this cross-sport dueling philosophy? We're going to talk about that, hopefully, with Mark Ogden, who came out with that for ESPN. He said, hey, Jalen, what's going on? Okay. So Mark Ogden actually just got back to me. So Mark Ogden reached out to, he's the ESPN writer, covers soccer, and he just put out something today about the reason why Manchester United doesn't come to Tampa is because they don't want the players to see the facility here in Tampa, because they're so much better than they are in Manchester. So I'm trying to get a hold of Mark Ogden, trying to get him on. He's reaching out to his superiors there at ESPN. That should be a good one. Ren Dax, not to jump too far ahead, but the team needs some defensive position coach changing. You get a tier 1 edge and off-ball linebacker that can cover. I'm with you, Ren, and I said this yesterday on the program. If you missed it, go check out all of my social media platforms. I put it out there. The Bucs have to make a splash at the pass rushing spot. Outside linebacker. Go get a dude. Go get a hoss. Max Crosby's that guy. Pay the man. I don't care. This is not a one-trick pony. This is the complete opposite of what the Atlanta Falcons did when they traded for Matthew Judon. This is the complete opposite than signing a guy like Khalil Mack, who's going to be a unrestricted free agent at 34 years old that had 6 sacks last year and 20 tackles. I don't want any part of Khalil Mack. I'm going to say it again. That was the big news today before the Liam Coen news came out. Khalil Mack looking for a new place to play. You want a guy that's on the downside of his career that had 6 sacks last year when he's playing on the opposite side of Joey Bosa and in a decent defense for Jim Harbaugh last year. He had 6 sacks last year. You think he's going to do better with the Bucs next year? Not a chance. I don't want a guy that is on the wrong side of 30, that if he's not rushing the passer and doing it at a high level like we saw earlier in his career, like the Bucs cannot become that team. Don't become that team that are bringing guys in and just signing them because they have big names. Oh, wow, let's get that guy because he was a great player in 2020. No. Go get Max Crosby right now. Trade for that man. I don't care what it costs. Well, I don't want 2 ones. I know somebody brought that up. 2 first-round picks. No first-round picks. You don't got to do all that. Find a way. Send him a pick in a couple of years. 2nd-round pick. A 2nd and a 3rd. A 2nd and one of your running backs. That's fine. Get Max Crosby in here. He's 27 years old. You'll be able to figure out whatever the contract is. This is a guy that left it all on the field for a team last year that was garbage. Even when he's not rushing and getting to the passer, he's making plays on the defensive line, making plays with tackles for loss. He is a great guy that your younger players can learn from. Max Crosby is the guy. Don't settle for anything less than a top-tier pass rusher. That is one of those things. That is one of those like check marks that you have to have with the Buccaneers in the 2025 season. You have to have an elite pass rusher, not a growing pass rusher. Not I hope this guy's going to work out. Maybe this guy will get 10 sacks. Give me an established guy on the outside that can get to the mother effing quarterback. Please. Now re-sign Godwin and LV and show up the pass rush in the secondary. I'm with you. Rich Storm, what would Jamel Dean's trade value be after the disappointing post-contract performance and injuries? I don't want that. I don't want to get rid of Jamel Dean. You got to throw numbers at those situations. He's a guy that gets banged up a lot. Yes, I understand. But that is one of those positions, unfortunately, where guys miss time. We saw it with Carlton. We saw it with Jamel. We saw it with Zion. Like Zion, for the most part, was there, but he got banged up throughout the entire season. Don't trade him away because he hasn't played great. Bring other guys in there so that you can utilize him in a place where he's at his best. Everybody was talking. Think about this, guys. Everybody was talking when Bucky was playing so well. Oh, now you can trade Rachaad White. I wouldn't be so quick to trade Rachaad White. You never know what's going to happen. Fortify your depth. That was going to be what I was going to say today about this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team before this Liam Coen situation came down. The depth on this team is something that has to change on the defensive side of the ball. I don't want to subtract pieces. I want to add pieces to that defense so that if you do lose a guy, because we know it's inevitable, you have other guys that can step up. We talk about the next man up mentality. We saw it in spades on the offensive side of the ball this year, but defensively, not great. Not great. And I know what Ren's saying. Light doesn't like to use the team's draft capital for players, but Super Bowl winning offense, go get that edge stud. I'm with you, Ren. I'm with you. I'm not talking about mortgaging the future. I'm not talking about a Deshaun Watson type of deal. But every once in a while, you got to take a swing. You got to take some kind of swing and add a guy to a team that is that close. You're close, man. You're in the hunt. You're winning the division year after year. I could give two shits what the rest of the division looks like. That doesn't matter. People like want to throw that at the Bucs like it's a terrible thing. Yeah, well, they won the division, and the division sucks. Who cares? That doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, you're one of the people. You're one of the teams that are in there with the opportunity to make a long postseason run and possibly win the Super Bowl. That's what you want. When the playoff games start, nobody goes, well, you won a shitty division. Nobody cares. Did you win or did you lose? It's a zero-sum business. It's black or white. The Buccaneers didn't even win that crappy division when they won the Super Bowl back in 2020. Who cares? Nobody looks at that Super Bowl, the second one in this franchise's history, with Tom Brady at the helm, with no preseason, with no training camp, with Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown, and Evans and Godwin and Fournette and JPP and Sue and Devin White and Levante David and all those guys. You remember those players. That's what you remember about the Buccaneers Super Bowl. You don't give a shit about the division. You made the playoffs. That's the only goal throughout the regular season. The entire goal for the regular season, other than get 1,000 yards from Mike Evans, is to find a way to get into the postseason. Be one of those teams that has a chance. Be one of those 7 teams that has a chance to make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Why not? Don't apologize. Do not apologize for making the playoffs, ever. It's such a lame discussion, such a lame thing for people when they're like, the division sucks. Who cares? They don't decide. It's not like the Buccaneers have we're going to play in the NFC South. We're going to play that one. We're going to play those guys every year. They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. Chris Cole says, Myles Garrett, please. Yeah, I wouldn't hate that either. You want to go get Myles Garrett? He wants to get the hell out of Cleveland because why the hell wouldn't you? I'm with you. Myles Garrett and Max Crosby are those two guys. I think Max is probably a little bit more healthy, so I'd probably go with him. And I really do like how Max Crosby can make a difference in the game without sacking the quarterback. Just watch those games. He's a menace. He's good in covering the run. He's a guy that can make plays in the open field. And I think he would enjoy being here. He's a guy that, again, he's trying to do whatever it can to make it work there in Las Vegas with the Raiders. even though everybody around him, and especially in this game where people look at teams that just absolutely start shitting the bed and like, I want out, get me out of here. You got Tyreek Hill. After all the things that Miami has done to try to placate that guy, he's like, no, I'm not playing the fourth quarter. I'm out of here. There's business decisions that get made all the time, right? We saw it from Devondre Campbell this year with the 49ers. They wanted him to go into the game. He's like, nah, I'm good. You got a guy in Max Crosby that is in his prime. He's one of the best players in all of football, in my opinion. And he's going out there every Sunday and putting his body on the line because that's the right thing to do. That is the kind of guy that you want to build around. That is the guy. I'm telling you, man, I am not one of those people all the time that are like, go get this guy or sign this guy or, hey, make this big, turn into a fantasy football manager. That's just not me. I understand that there's a realistic part of this whole scenario. And I know Jason Light is probably not too likely to do this because he doesn't like giving up draft capital. But there's certain players in the game that you want to make an adjustment to your game plan for. And you look at what the Eagles were able to do, bringing in Saquon Barkley. You look at what the Ravens were able to do, bringing in Derrick Henry. And I know they're running backs. But, I mean, specifically, let's look at the Eagles. Look at their team. You're telling me the Eagles don't like to build through the draft? Okay, they got A.J. Brown via trade, but they drafted Jalen Hurts. They drafted Devontae Smith. I think they drafted all of their starting offensive linemen. They drafted Kenneth Gainwell. They drafted Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. And all right, they did, and they went out and got Zach Bond in free agency. There you go. There's a great example. A guy that has fortified the middle of their defense, but they also drafted the two corners this year. They drafted a guy like Nakobe Dean, right? There's a lot of players on that team. All right, yeah, they go out and they sign. It's got to be a balance. You signed a Darius Slay, or I don't know if they signed him or they traded for him. Then they bring in a CJ Gardner-Johnson. Like, you have to have that mix. And when you have a guy that can really upset the apple cart and you plant your flag in the ground, like, things are going to be different on the defensive side of the ball this year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is a way to do it. And you're not just doing it because of the name on the back of the jersey. You're doing it because of the player that's wearing the jersey. Again, I've watched a lot of Max Crosby this year, and you see so many bad things on tape from players on bad teams. You see him giving up on plays. You see him sitting out plays. They tapping their helmet. They want out. I didn't see that from him at all. That's the kind of guy that you want here in the Tampa Bay area. But again, the big news today is Liam Coen staying with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is great news. It's great news. And when you think about it, and I'm sorry, some of this other news is coming out, and I'm seeing it from our guy Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times. Rick just tweeted out, Liam Coen's deal is believed to be similar to that of Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, who reportedly earns $4.5 million a year. Woo-wee! $4.5 million a year. And then 20 minutes ago, Jordan Schultz saying former Jets head coach Robert Saleh is flying into Jacksonville tomorrow for a Friday meeting with Shad Khan, Trent Baalke, and others, with Liam Coen out of the running. Many around the league view Saleh as a potential favorite, though it wouldn't be surprising if the Jaguars expanded their head coaching search. It is coming up all roses right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you look at Liam Coen, again, if you're standing where Liam Coen is today, and you looked at the two options, right? You look at the Jacksonville Jaguars and you say, all right, Trevor Lawrence, franchise quarterback, even though he probably hasn't reached his potential yet, but he did have the playoff win a couple of years ago. Okay. I know you got ETN. You got Brian Thomas, which is a big coup for them. Fantastic. I've just drafted an LSU and an Ohio State wide receiver, and I think he'll be okay in the draft any year. So there are pieces there. And I think you look at the division too, and okay, fine. For those people that want to use the division argument, the AFC South isn't great. I mean, Houston's a good team, right? But the Colts, they're around a 500 team. The Titans, they got the number one pick in the draft. So that wasn't as appealing to him as some other people may think. I think it's both. I do think it's a little bit of both. I think it is the comfort of being here in the Tampa Bay area and knowing, hey, I'm going to be able to go do my thing again with people I like. There's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot that goes into the comfort. There's a lot that goes into things that we don't even think about. And it's something that talking to Ian, and don't forget the Beckles and Recher podcast today at 3:00. We will be live at 3. And that's one thing that I've talked to, whether it was Ian or Denard Span or some of the other players or former players here in the Tampa Bay area. Well, like I ask, what's one thing that either media members or fans don't get when it comes to players or coaches or people that are involved with the professional sports? And to a man, the answer almost every time is that there's so much other stuff that goes on off the field, off the ice, off the court. The family stuff, the living arrangements. I go back to Brandon Hagel when he signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning or when he got traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and his head was like, it was like one of the most awkward press conferences of all time because he had no idea. He didn't even know where to get groceries. He barely knew where he was going to live. That is a part of the human element, especially when you have your choice. It's one thing when you don't have a choice, like Hagel, but when you have a choice, like Liam Coen, and you're like, man, I like it here. The people around me are good dudes. We know that we can be successful. We got a chance to run it back. I think I can even be better because I've said it here and I'll say it again. Liam Coen still needs to grow as a play caller. He's not a finished product. You look at some of the games last year and you look at some of the mistakes that he made. It's going to happen. This is first year as an OC in the National Football League where it was his job. It wasn't flawless. Year 2, you would think it's going to get better because he's a smart guy and he's familiar with the pieces around him. Can you imagine Chris Godwin healthy for an entire year? Jalen McMillan and Bucky Irving in year 2? Graham Barton in year 2? Baker Mayfield, obviously another, year into his career, but his second year with it's just him and Liam. And if you go back to last year, when Liam Coen got the job, there was a video that the Buccaneers posted of Baker Mayfield greeting Liam Coen in the parking lot over at the Evan Hell Training Center at One Buccaneer Place. That bond was built and fortified even before that day, and it has only gotten stronger here. Because Liam Coen looks at this situation here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and goes, this may not be my forever home, but in 2025, that is where I want to be. And I think everybody, whether it's Liam, the Bucs, or all the entire Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan base, that's what you got to focus on. Just focus on 2025. Let 2026, that's a question and a conversation to have for another day. Because the discussion over the last couple of weeks was, what's the deal with Liam Coen? Should they keep him at the expense of Todd Bowles? If he does leave, who can the Buccaneers bring in as another offensive coordinator? And I told you right here on the show, I didn't think they were going to be shit out of luck. I thought they would have been okay because this job is a lot more appealing now than it was the last couple of years. And you know who just spoke on behalf of that sentiment? Liam Coen. Because he, for a multitude of reasons, decided, I'm not going to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'd rather be the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as Rick Stroud reported from the Tampa Bay Times, it looks like $4.5 million for Liam Coen. Vic Fangio territory. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. That's how you keep a guy here that is going to be an OC for a team that is looking to build on what they did this year.